Good evening and welcome to this week's episode of Sunday Night Live, your favorite automotive show where we talk about the issues that affect the customer experience at your store, whether it's the front of the store, the back of the store, or somewhere in the middle. Doesn't really matter because the better experience we offer our customers, the more they come back to us for everything they need when they need it. And I'm extremely fortunate because I have a great network of automotive professionals and restaurateurs and friends and connections that come on here weekly to share with us what they do or what they've done to improve the customer experience. Real actionable items you can use tomorrow in your stores. And this week's no exception. I've got Jim Horan with Retail My Ride. I've been excited about this show because, I'm open-minded. And I know that right now there is a huge crunch on getting used vehicles. And I know you hear all different things. Oh, you have to have a buy center. Oh, but the cars are at the auction. Oh, private party. You can only buy private party. Well, guess what? There's such a need that you can literally not put all of your eggs in one basket. You need a broad strategy. And you need to be open-minded because there are some things that you can do that you're not doing now that'll add to your bottom line. Years ago, if a deal came in that was a small deal, sometimes the technicians would get a little upset because there's not a lot of money in it. But you know what? To me, every deal was a great deal because if it was a small deal today, a few months later, there would be a bigger deal from that same customer coming in. So, Jim, welcome to the show, man.
Well, thanks very much. I'm very excited to be on this evening. Again, without blowing any smoke, I'd like to say that I had your show on the top of my list. I've done a couple of these now this year, try to get out and stretch my legs a little bit and get the word out about private party acquisitions and the kind of the unique approach that we bring to it. But so thanks for having me. I really do appreciate it. I'm honored to be here.
You're welcome, man. So for the few folks that might not know you or have not heard of Retail My Ride, why don't you give us your history, how you got into the car business and don't go past fifth grade because then it gets longer. And then how you got to this point where you are now.
Great. Yeah, we'll leave the dates out and all the places and we'll just kind of give you just a little bit of background so we can move on to the good stuff. But my automotive DNA, if you will, kind of dates all the way back to 1979. I'll date myself because I was 15 years old then, and I was working for my stepfather's new car dealerships in Miami. So literally, working as a lot boy or lot attendant and parts driver, parts manager, everything in between, and then went off to college. So after college, I had a 15-year career with GMAC Financial, both at the branch level and at the world headquarters up in Detroit for several years. Incredible experience. The last 3 years of that 15-year career with GMAC was spent in the remarketing area. And that is where we were, I was one of basically 5 regional remarketing directors responsible for disposing, liquidating, selling 1.2 million vehicles in the year that I left in 2001. Mainly through the auction system, but I was also, or through the auction, platform. But I was also one of 5 original founders, developers, and launchers of the Smart Auction product that's still out there today, which was really cool. And that's a whole other story. That literally started out with a kind of a sketch on a napkin and turned into something back in those late 90s. So anyway, I got a lot of great experience about moving cars and processes and workflows and how the used car industry works early on. I did a little bit longer stint, or a stint after that, with some outsourcing globally, but always in the auto finance vertical. And then in 2013, I opened a family-owned and operated used car dealership retail outlet in Fort Worth, Texas. I'm still doing that now. I'm on my 12th year. And in 2018, I launched Retail My Ride. It was something that I thought was needed in the industry, and it was kind of a gift or a free opportunity to put information out about the consignment sourcing piece of acquiring vehicles. I've been doing it with my dealership, and I knew there had to be others, and there are. There's probably more than most people believe. But there's a lot of dealers that are currently doing the consignment. What we did was build Retail My Ride around creating a model and a platform that will help dealers to expand their existing private party acquisition. And so we'll get into that tonight, and I look forward to doing that. And Retail My Ride has taken different pivots and moves. We started out small and we were a subscription model. The dealers could, put their profile up and get some advertising opportunities and get a couple of contact leads. Now we've turned into what we call ourselves to be America's #1 hub for retail car consignment. And that's where we're headed. We wanted to professionalize it. We wanted to standardize it. We want to wrap process around it and bring resources to the dealers that are doing it, and also expand into dealers that don't know about it but should be doing it. So that's where we're at.
That's an interesting history. A couple of things. I was doing some quick math when you threw out the numbers, and you know what? You're my junior, actually.
I'm your junior, but not by much, I bet.
Not by much, but still, nonetheless. So that's interesting. And then two, what you do. I think I said this to you before we went live. Is you have your own petri dish, right? There are a lot of people that talk about things that they've heard or that somebody's pitched to them. But what I love about what you do is that you are a car dealer. You're a used car dealer, and you have created this platform and leveraged it to fuel your own business. So, kudos to you, man, because there are a lot of people today out there that, they know what they do from a video or a PowerPoint, but you actually are in the trenches doing this, and it's working for you, and you've been doing it for a while. So I'm excited to learn a couple of things about Retail My Ride today. That's really cool.
Okay, great. Yeah.
So the problem that you're trying to solve when you built Retail My Ride, that just everybody is in the same boat, they can't get cars?
I mean, those that are out there every day doing this, at least this year, probably even last year, the two biggest topics out there are talked about the most is vehicle acquisitions. And as we're here, it's not going to get any easier in 26, 27, perhaps, and even beyond. And there was a shift back in the days of, CarMax and now Carvana, where private party becomes the real kind of, swimming pool everybody wants to swim in, right? You still go to the auction. Those are always going to be there. So our focus has been on the private party acquisition side of it, but a totally different twist. And you're right. What I've learned and what I actually apply on a daily basis at my dealership is just completely intertwined. I mean, I started out with going out and buying my initial inventory like everybody else does and putting it on floor plan and hoping I can sell it fast enough before the market shifts or the floor plan interest catches up to me and things like that. But when I got into doing a little bit of consignment, it really started to kind of catch my attention because it immediately not only supplied cars, but the list of benefits was huge. And that was even back in 2013, 2014. By the time we launched Retail My Ride, again, we were, I was probably 50-50 mixed between owned and consigned. Today, today, just as an example, I'm probably 80% consigned. I bought a car last month. I bought a 2022 CRV at the auction. It was the first time I bought a vehicle at auction in 7 years. I mean, I used to go to the auction and buy cars all the time. And so I think that speaks volumes to the fact that, what we're doing and what Retail My Ride is trying to get out to the dealers is, like you said in the very beginning of this podcast, you got to be open-minded. You got to kind of make a shift in your mindset. You got to open it up to, new things that are out there. What we bring to the table is we've proven it, and we've got a network of dealers that are proving it every day. So if you're not really looking into it, if you're not open-minded, if you're not trying it or contacting us, you're probably missing out. Those that are doing it love it. So the way they use us is we supply consignment vehicles and their sellers to the dealers that are on our network. So if you're not even doing consignment, you're not on our network, then you're missing out on that opportunity.
Well, the costs are crazy, right? You have the prices at the auctions are crazy. Then you've got to pay for the fees. Then you've got to get the vehicle to your store. That's transportation cost. That's not cheap.
Right.
Okay. And then by the time it gets to your lot, a lot of times, people don't necessarily get rid of the cars and do all of the servicing to it. A lot of times they figure it's easier just to get rid of the car than to put the money into it. So then you have a huge recon expense. So by the time the dealer has purchased the car and is ready to put it on the front line, a lot of times they're already underwater.
Yeah. The CRV I bought at the auction about maybe 6 weeks ago. I think I paid $500 over MMR. I paid a $765 buy fee. And I'm not here to rip on the auctions. They're going to be there, and they're still a source or channel. But yeah, but I mean, literally, I'm upside down right now. I'll probably end up selling it for a $500 loss. But it was a great. Again, it's been 6 years since I went out there and actually raised my hand, kept it there long enough to own it. So I'm living on consignments and private party acquisitions and trade-ins. And it's working great now. I'm smaller, small in size and things like that. I put between small, medium, and large. You put me in the small category in terms of a used car dealer. But again, going back to your point of the Petri dish, it's a proven concept. So love to talk more about how it works and what we actually do and the inner workings of it and what our role is in this, because that's where we can really help dealers out there.
I always look for the good in every situation, right? So even if it's a scenario where you lost money, then that's really what Brian Benstock refers to as return on learning, right? Everybody knows return on investment, but there's also tremendous value in return on learning, where it validates what you do because you've experienced some pain. Right, and they're not all like that. You really and truly have to have multiple sources where you're going to get cars, because just like a builder has to keep building despite what's going on around him, a car dealership needs inventory, and you need to keep moving cars, because the lifetime value of the customer is huge. If they can come back in and service with you, or referrals where they bring other their family members, their friends, and all that to you, sometimes that $500 loss you take might turn into multiple thousands of dollars in other sales and revenue from other parts of your business. So it's a great way to be on the front lines, because too many people don't really know it from doing it. They know it from reading about it or sharing somebody else's content, but they're not in the trenches themselves, like you are. So let me just see here. The way I see it, it's a simple, risk-free way to acquire quality cars directly from private sellers, right? So how exactly does Retail My Ride consignment model work?
Perfect. Let me. I want to start a little bit higher level, and it won't take long. So we'll get into the meat and potatoes and the mechanics of it. But the one thing, so we're talking about consignment, retail consignment. Right? Somebody, a seller wants to leave their vehicle with you instead of selling it to you. You put it on your lot next to your cars, and you treat it and sell it just like anything else that you put out there. And that's consignment. But let me show you. Let me kind of talk a little bit about the bigger picture for a minute, and then we get into the mechanics. What we really do.
Hold on a second. Before you go into it, let me just acknowledge Michael Larkin here, because sometimes the comments show up in the platform, sometimes they don't. Michael's comments show up on my LinkedIn, but not in the platform. He says, "Good for you, Jim. Walking the walk and adjusting and getting better all the time is just smart. Most of the times we hear talkers who are getting ready to get ready to take action." And he says, "Oh, hello, Paul." Michael's a good friend of mine.
That's good.
So I catch you up, but I like to acknowledge them as we go.
Yeah. So here's what we do. I'll tell you the mechanics of it. But what we really do the most is we focus on helping dealers. Well, again, right now we have a network of dealers that already do consignment. There are dealers that do consignment that aren't on our platform for whatever reason. They don't want us to help them get more cars in the consignment circle. But what we really do, what we focus on now, is helping dealers expand away from the traditional, what we call single path model. What's a single path model? Single path model is our dealers that own 100% of their inventory. And a lot of people say, well, what other way is there? You have to own them, don't you? No, you don't have to own them. You don't have to own them to make money, to sell them, get them ready, do all that. What we do and what we focus on is going in with training, coaching, support, and development. And it's actually very easy. It's not complicated, but it's really starts with a mindset shift that I'm open-minded to going from single path, where I just own every car, to a dual path model. And the dual path says some of my inventory is going to be owned and some of it's going to be consigned. And you determine through strategy and profile and selection criteria and all those things as to what your inventory content is going to be. Like I said, mine started out 50-50. It grew to about 80-20 consignment to own. But the dual path is kind of our lingo, our language, but it's a mindset. Yeah. It's a mindset. So take it from that, which is I'm going to be a dealer that openly and publicly and routinely offers the consignment option to private party sellers. And I'm going to do that so that I can have a mix of cars, but also get more of those cars and have a mix. And so that's where we step in. We say you really should, if you want to optimize your efforts within the private party acquisition arena, you should be open to take cars on consignment. And there's huge benefits to it. I mean, I could walk through lots of them. They're on our website as well for dealers to look at. But the dual path model is the differentiator. It's something we kind of invented it, right? I mean, dealers that were already doing both inventory styles or inventory mixes were already doing dual path. So we now kind of look at the population of used car dealers. They're either a single path dealer or you're a dual path dealer. If you're a dual path dealer, again, that means that you're now you're offering consignment. And when you do that, in terms of the seller and your conversion rates and your relationship building with these private sellers, is you're adding another lever, whichever way you pronounce it, lever, to your strategy, to your model. You're adding another knob you can turn. So that's the difference. It's a shift, it's a pivot, but here's the best part of it. Here's the best news, is that when we go in with our training and our coaching, specifically on this, I'm not an acquisitions coach. There's guys that do it way better than me, but I can come in and show you how to be a dual path dealer, which has its own benefits and strategies and models.
Yeah.
The part is it's what we bring to you in order to get from single path to dual path. It's 95% seamless overlay on top of your existing workflow, process, people, technology, and tools. You're not throwing out something old and getting something new. You're not replacing it. All you're doing is expanding it from single to double. And that's yeah. So with that said, I can get into kind of the user experience as a seller and the user experience as a dealer with Retail My Ride. But you have to kind of get that concept into your head that if you're going to do this, anybody who wants to go down that path with us, we'll teach you how to do it. And again, once you have it and you offer it and you're willing to accept cars on consignment, you may only have 10% of your inventory. If I have 100 cars on the lot, only 10 of them are consignment. Anytime you mix, I like to say any mix is better than no mix, because it shows up in your financial statements. It shows up in your relationships, your retention, your repeat sales, your loyalty, all that. It shows up everywhere. And we have numbers to prove that. We have interactive models now out there that we show dealers or people interested in this, that they can put their own numbers in those models and actually see the impact of what they're doing before it even gets started. So
now, I just want to remind the audience what that means is no cash outlay, no auction fees, and no floor plan usage, right? And right. I'm the kind of guy, I always look beyond what's on the outside of the box. Okay, so yes, on the outside of the box, you're bringing buyers and sellers literally together in this platform. But I look at it as kind of in a little different way than just moving inventory. Because the way I look at it is if you can help a dealer with inventory from a private party that dealer doesn't have to invest any money in, well, then you are an additional revenue source for that dealer.
Absolutely.
At the same time, when you help a consumer move their car, why, now you've helped them financially. You can become their friend, right? The goal in sales is you want to make friends, and those same customers / friends, they may be in the market for something else that you have on your lot, and the cycle just continues itself. I really love that.
Yeah, it builds on itself. Here's what you're describing right now is the difference between single path dealers who own their inventory. So if you're going to own it, that means you're going to buy it. And if it's private party, you're going to take it on a trade, which is great because you're going to sell another car. But what dealers are chasing right now is that private party ICO, instant cash offer seller, right? Those are purely transactional. And I have nothing against them because part of the dual path is to offer both to the sellers.
Right.
Offer them instant cash and offer them consignment side by side. That's the duality of it, right? And so, I mean, it's what I say. We're not replacing what you do. We're just layering another lever that you can pull when you're engaged with that private party. So we focus particularly on the private party. Trade-ins work with this as well, but the ICOs is really where it makes a huge difference. So again, I can walk you through what you're describing too as part of the experience that the sellers and the dealers are seeing when they do this. So I mean, take 2 minutes to walk through if that's okay.
I was going to ask you next. What does it really take for a dealer to get started, and is it really as little as just 15 minutes?
It's 15 minutes to register on our website. So we make this real easy for dealers. So we're kind of like, I describe this a little bit like part of us is like an auction where we're a channel for used cars. And the other part is we're kind of like KBB. We're kind of like that third party lead gen for private party on the consignment side, not for you to buy their car, but for you to take it on consignment. So on the auction, so on the auction side, when you're a brand new dealer, I mean, I've got dealer friends that just got licensed recently. First thing they do is they go register with Auction Access, right? And that gets them access to Manheim and Odessa and all that. But if you never attend the auction, you don't have any cost. You don't raise your hand. You don't have any buy fees. You don't. With us, if you register, you're saying to us, I want to do a dual path model. I want to start taking consignments. If you're not doing that now, you can register in 15 minutes. There's no subscription. There's no upfront cost. And then we will do an onboarding. The registration process is 15 minutes. We'll then reach out to you and we'll schedule some time. And that's where we go, hey, are you doing consignment today? No, we're not. Okay, we're going to do some training with you. And we're going to come in and do that training. And that training doesn't take long. It's about a day or two. But if we pull in the right people from your team, it's typically going to be, anybody that's been involved in the acquisition process. And then some of your accounting people, because there are that 5% part that doesn't overlay perfectly is like accounting and some of the back office type stuff. But for the most part, there's not a lot of training. It's very, very smooth. So, and then once you're up and on the platform and you're trained, now you're a dual path dealer. So one of the things, let me back up for a second. We're not a software company. We're not selling software to get you more cars. We're helping you expand into this new area on how to acquire cars. No capital investment, no floor plan, no depreciation risk, no market volatility risk. None of those things apply. They're gone. In fact, recon becomes irrelevant because if a seller brings you a car and you give them both options, hey, Mr. Seller, we'll buy your car for $18,000 or leave it with us and we should be able to get you $19,900 in your pocket, but it's going to take a little time, right? You go through the same process of evaluating and appraising that vehicle.
Yeah.
And then you say, you know what, your car needs $900 worth of reconditioning. If he says, I want to do the 900 with you and leave it with you on consignment, guess what? That $900 is on the seller. It's a cost to them. And so, beautiful.
Yeah.
You got back fixed operations revenue coming in. And instead of an in-house cost, it's now a revenue. That's one of the many benefits. So we're kind of off a little bit in terms of, I can walk you through step by step again, each user experience. But what we do is we sit in the middle with our platform, and our job is to promote, inform, and connect those sellers who are wanting consignment to the dealers who are offering consignment. And that's what the platform does. Well, we obviously do more. We train, we support, we have resources out there with these interactive tools that help the dealers to communicate with the sellers and showing them, and things like that. So, yeah.
So I want to get into a couple things here. So, vehicle types, inventory opportunities. Consumer demand is diversifying, right?
Yeah.
Dealers need a mix of late model, affordable daily drivers, and unique inventory like classics and luxury models to stand out. Daily drivers, classics, and even exotics, this isn't just typical inventory. So what kind of vehicles can dealers expect to access through Retail My Ride?
So we do all vehicles in terms of types, everyday drivers, exotics, classics, antiques, commercial, mobility vans and with the wheelchairs and mobility vehicles. So the types are that's one of our big strengths, is we offer them a wide range, almost all of them.
Okay.
What's interesting is we have found over the years doing this that not only our network dealers, but dealers, again, that are dual path dealers already offering instant cash, I'll buy your car, or we'll take it on consignment. There are many of them that specialize only in exotics. And you have very large organizations or very large dealer groups with multiple rooftops that do the classics. You have like Gateway Classics, Street Side Classics, GR Auto Gallery, things like that. They will only take that. And that's when you sign up as a dealer, in your profile that you create within 15 minutes, is you tell us the vehicles that you will take from us when we give those to you. Because again, let's back up for a second. Let's take it through maybe a full cycle of a vehicle.
Yeah.
A seller finds us, we find them, we do some outreach. We're doing a bunch of ways to get us engaged with those sellers, right? But a seller finds retailmyride.com. They go to our webpage. It's kind of like Kelley Blue Book there too, where they put in their vehicle information. We decode it, we decipher it. We look out into our network and say, great news, we have a dealer in your area that specializes in your type of vehicle. Could be a Lamborghini, could be a Camry.
Yeah.
And we say, if you could take the next step with us, on average, a seller like you will gain $1,500 to $3,500 more than if you went to Carvana, CarMax, or the dealer down the street and took an instant cash offer. By the time a seller finds us, they've already done that part of the journey. They probably already received 1 or 2 or 3 instant cash offers, and they said no to every one of them. And so now they're probably up on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace or Auto Trader. And that's where we go out and do our outreach and pull them down too, but they find us by themselves. So now they push the buttons and they say, yes, I'm interested. Match me with your dealer. And when we show them the profile of the dealer, it gives them all the information, the fees, the hours of operation, who you'll be working with. You'll be working with Paul at ABC Auto Sales. That is right down the street at this address. And we give them 3 options. And we say, where are you in the selling cycle? If you're ready to sell today, you can make an appointment on our website to go see that dealer and bring your car to them, because that's the next step in the process.
Yeah.
Those appointments become hot leads that immediately get push notification out to the dealer and to the seller. The second option the seller has when they're on our website is, I'm interested, I'm a seller now, but I have questions about consignment in general. And if Retail My Ride will contact me, I'd appreciate it. And we work those as warm leads with the goal of converting those to hot leads and getting them to appointments.
Yeah.
And then the final option is, I'm just here kind of looking around. It's kind of new to me. I'm not really ready. We call those cold leads, obviously. And we work those differently. So the appointments, everything gets pushed to the dealer, but they get all the information they need about the car, the seller. The one thing we won't do is we won't tell the sellers, if you take this over to Paul, he'll get you $22,000 for your car. We leave that up to the dealer. So we won't touch that. We just tell them there's typically, which is true, there's typically a nice size gain by doing the consignment versus the instant cash offer. And we show them that math kind of in a general way, but we want the dealer to show the final math because that's where it belongs, basically.
I like the fact, generally speaking in sales, if you offer the customer multiple choices, 2 or 3 choices, generally speaking, they're going to pick one of them. So this buys that basic sales model where somebody's going to pick one of them. You're not just locked into the one number and, okay, well, let me think about that and see you later. So if somebody has some flexibility on time, because they want to get more money, they have that option right there. They don't have to go somewhere else.
That's the part. You keep them in the funnel. You keep them. Let's back up for a second. Again, part of the mindset of taking on the consignment, the dual path is really stepping into, and we start with this when we train the new dealers. They have to step into the seller's shoes or mind, right? When the seller says it's time to sell my car, what are their options? If you Google it today, they're told you can either sell it to a dealer or sell it yourself, which is a pretty scary, stressful, time-consuming thing. But what we say is we're the third option. We're the option that brings you the best of both worlds. Because if you have a little time, you'll get the extra money. And we say, and it pans out to be about $1,500 to $3,500 more at the end of the consignment process. And we tell them it takes 15 to 45 days. It obviously depends on the condition of the car and how aggressive the dealer prices it and what the expectations are. But when you start with that, so if you're engaged with a private seller, and in the past all you've had was, we'll offer you $18,000, and they go, yeah, they ghost you or they'll leave and they'll never come back. They'll go down the street. But when you can do this one of two ways. You can either immediately do them side by side. Here's what your two options are: pick door number 1 or door number 2. And now you have another lever to pull, right? Or you can do your instant cash offer, but you're still a dual path dealer, but you're waiting to see how the seller responds to your instant cash offer. And if it starts to go sideways, you can go, or if you have some time, we can get you another $1,500 or somewhere about there. Would you be interested in hearing more about that? And that's the knob and the lever, where now you've got them in the funnel still. They're not going to Craigslist. They're not going to Carvana. They're staying with you because they want to hear more. So there's that kind of that magic we talk about, that's out there. And that's real. We see it every day. I see it every day at my dealership. And all of a sudden, you literally now, when it gets to where we send the seller to the dealer, there is a relationship that gets formed there. Because the seller, again, we've all been sellers at one point or another.
Right.
We feel like this dealer is willing to pull us in, park my car right next to his, list it for retail or near retail, instead of just quoting me another, instant cash offer that might be $100 more than the guy down the street, but still below my expectations. And so we kind of look at it like we put some content out there around, we've kind of like rescued people from Craigslist, Let's get you out of there, man. Let's get you more money, but let's get you out of there. And so, yeah, we're rescuing people. They don't want to be up there. Trust me, they don't want to be up there. And so this is the magic behind it. So that's the seller experience. They see us as the experts. We're the number one hub in America for car consignment. Our content supports that. We'll walk them through the process. We educate and inform, and we promote, and then we get them over to the dealer. The dealer, again, seamlessly, when that car comes in, literally it goes through the exact same process as if it was an ICO. If whatever that dealer's process is, they give it to the used car department and they take it around back and they run, an evaluation and they put it up on the lift and they figure out how much reconditioning. You do everything the same. Then you come back and that's when you show the math to the seller and you show them the options. The dealer does, not us. And they say,
a lot of people. It's got to be eye-opening for a lot of people.
It's got to be what?
Eye-opening for a lot of people.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. Well, again, many of them are going to take the instant cash offer still. We're not saying that this is going to beat instant cash offer every single time. Because again, well, here's another saying that we put together. Every parked car has a story. And that's true. Because I get stuff that is cream puff, super low mileage for our dealers, so we send it over to them. Every one of them has a story behind it. You know, this one never got driven in the rain. This one only got driven to church. You know, and those folks, they look at your inventory, Mr. Dealer, and they see that same car listed for $28,000, and you're offering them $22,500. And so, again, it's kind of transparency, it's trust, it's relationship based. And that's only because you're offering the consignment. You don't have to take the consignment, or you don't have to put the consignment, you know, as forward as the ICO. You can offer. We recommend you offer both. We're not saying ICOs are the worst, because some people need that instant cash to get the deal going and get it done and all that. They don't have time, right?
You're not missing any opportunities. Now, are these usually newer vehicles? Or a mix of all kinds and some niche vehicles mixed into the mix here?
Yeah, like I said, what we normally see is you'll see your exotics, especially. You won't see a lot of dealers that are on our platform, at least, or out there doing consignment, that have a Lamborghini parked next to a Camry. They'll have, you know, all the exotics, and that's even so. What we found too is the higher the price or the higher the value of the vehicle, the more consignment is prevalent. By the time you get to the exotics, those guys are 80-90% consignment for their sourcing. They're not paying for those cars. I mean, there's a lot of them that own a lot of them too, but if you have 100 cars that are worth, you know, $500,000 each, a lot of those are on consignment. Same with the classics. You go to Street Side and Gateway, they'll take trade-ins and stuff like that, but a lot of those get wholesale. But if they have 300 or 400 vehicles in their showroom, 90% or more are consignment. Now, when you get to my place and places like mine, I have a mix. I don't do classics. I do everyday cars. I've got 07 Corvettes and 2022 CRVs. Those are becoming more and more. We're seeing more and more dealers join our network that are doing the everyday cars because of, again, what the competition and how difficult it is to source the really good cars. And beat out Carvana or stay away from the auctions because you can't make as much money. We haven't talked about the money yet for the dealer either. We've talked about the experience, but there's great money in this. I'll walk you through that math if you want. We could even do
The next thing was going to be, how does the pricing model work, and how does the dealer actually pay, or, you know, how's that all come together?
Yeah, from a process standpoint, the car comes in, they sign when they do that, after they do that evaluation, let's finish our example and do it as quick as possible. But they did the evaluation, they put it up on the lift, they sit down in the vehicle buying center with the seller, and this is what you would normally do with an ICO, and say, instead of saying we'll give you 18, you say we'll give you 18 or 19.9, which one do you want? And if they pick consignment, you run it again through the exact same process. The only difference is you're not cutting a check, you're signing a consignment agreement. And every dealer is going to have a little different. We've got a kind of a standard template that's generic that we share, again, part of the training, and we make sure it's compliant with their state and things like that. But they sign an agreement. Some dealers like myself, I charge an enrollment fee. It's an upfront fee out of pocket. It's $175. Kind of covers some of my initial time. And then after that, there's different commission structures. But like the average commission is anywhere between 5 and say 10%, 10 or 12% commission. Some of them are tiered. I do 6% at my dealership. So on a $30,000 car, I'm charging $175 plus 6% of $30,000. It's $18, almost $2,000. But I also have an opportunity to do reconditioning. I can do F&I. I can do cross-selling. I can take trade-ins. So everything's the same as if you purchased the car. Again, going back to the dual path being owned and consigned. And again, the dealer controls that mix. If I'm a 100-car dealer with my lot, 60 of them are owned and 40 of them are consigned, or maybe it's 80-20. They control that based on their own, again, strategy criteria. Maybe they only pick the really nice, super low mileage stuff to do the consignment on.
So there's definitely money to be made. So in an instance like that, it's almost like like the consumer is using a car buying service or a car selling service, because there is still a commission involved. The only difference is that
Yeah.
You get paid when it sells.
And that's what happens. They get paid when it sells. So what happens in the contract, you already agree mutually with the seller. The dealer says, we're going to list it for $22,500. We think it's going to sell, about $500 to $800 less than that. So this is, in most cases, again, every dealer has their own program. We don't dictate in terms of retail market, right? They're not a franchise of ours. They're just a network participant. But the terms of it are basically that once I sell, what it is the seller will give you a floor price. If you get an offer below this, call me and I'll say yes or no. And that's where there's a little bit of difference. And some dealers are uncomfortable with that. They don't want to have to go back to the seller or private party, but it's really not that difficult. And again, during the training, we show how to address that. You have a dedicated contact or even a group that does the consignment part of your inventory, but everything else is the same. That's that 5% that doesn't seamlessly overlay. But yeah, once you sell the car, then
you coach the seller on what are realistic prices based on market conditions, and you set that properly. It's not like in the real estate world, for instance, there are people that they have unrealistic expectations, and those people, if you talk to a realtor, they'll say, hey, they don't really want to sell the house because they're asking so much more than the market bears. So you advise them, and if somebody's way out in left field, does that person not make the program?
That's correct. That becomes an eligibility. There's the thing too. We teach this, but we coach this. Every vehicle has 2 or 3 eligibility points. The seller has to be eligible. Actually, and this is what we do before we send it to you too, as best we can. We're not perfect, but the seller has to be eligible. If they don't have 15 to 45, maybe 60 days to wait for the car to sell, they're not eligible. If their car doesn't meet the vehicle selection criteria, we have standards of what we, again, recommend to dealers, but we leave it up to dealers in their profile will tell us if they have mileage restrictions. And then again, we know right away, we're not sending you any, salvage titles or bonded, check engine lights on. I mean, that's going to get caught in the evaluation anyway. We're trying to say, so we filter that out with our sellers. The seller, when they go to our website, will do a little pop quiz, and it kind of asks them those questions up front. And we fail probably 15% of our leads that come to the website and fill out the form. They never get any. They don't have to go any further.
So you have a nice vetting process.
Exactly. Yes. As best we can. We can tweak that. Again, the funnel is what we're trying to fill, but we don't want to fill it with junk. And we don't want to fill it with stuff that our dealer doesn't want. So we're getting better and better at that. Each dealer does on their profile tell us what they want. And then we only send the stuff that they should want. Is it a perfect, some of it gets rejected. But your point, Paul, is a big one where, again, we ask the sellers when we're talking to them, have you received any instant cash offers? Yes. How much was it? Because if they've got instant cash offers that are 21, 22,000 and their expectation is 28, 29 when they go to the dealer's going to say no. And I sit down, but that's part of that again, that kind of like relationship consultation. You'll get some stubborn people, but here's what you kind of tell them in a professional way. Sounds like you should be up on Craigslist or Facebook for a while and then come back and see us in about 3 weeks. You're done. Yeah.
That smokes out the BSers right out of the gate.
Yeah. No, we get those still. And that's a big, that actually is, from what I've heard from dealers that aren't doing consignment, that becomes, well, I don't want to have to argue about what the car's worth. And that kind of almost keeps them from doing the dual path approach or model. But there's an easy way to do that. In fact, we do a thing called golden rules. There's 4 golden rules when you sign up to be a dealer, a dual path dealer. The first one is select the same cars for consignment that you would do for own. Like you don't have a part of your lot that's like these are low quality consignment cars and here's all my good stuff. It's all the same. But the second thing is the dealer is the retail expert and they set the expectation. And if the customer argues or fights them on it, they're not eligible. You won't find that very often.
Right.
Yeah, it's just not. It's not the common thing. It's out there, but it's not the prevalent. most common.
Well, it's what they do, right? Given the market conditions where inventory is tight to begin with,
Yeah.
and this is what we do, as car people, right? We keep an eye on the market. We know what's selling and for what and how long it takes to sell. It seems to me a very simple equation that, if you price it correctly based on market conditions in an area, then it's going to sell. There's a strong history behind that. But it doesn't seem complicated.
Yeah, you get more of that on, if you're doing everyday cars, you could go, depending on how big your dealership is. Someone brings you a Camry. I always use Camry as an example. You can say, we just sold 3 cars like that in the last 2 weeks, and this is how much they sell for. And by the way, how much did Carvana offer you? And then again, it's all about showing the math. You can use Car Gurus, or you can use some other retail. So what you're doing is an instant cash offer. You're saying, here's what your car is worth, but that's a wholesale figure. But when you do a dual path, you're saying, here's what your car is worth.
Here are your options.
Here's what the retail market is. And you're the retail expert. Maybe you pull out your dealer badge or something, show it to them. I don't know. But you tell them, you remind them who the expert is, right? In a professional way. So that's how you overcome that.
You mean if they Google something, they're not instant experts?
Yeah, but my point is this, like we talked about, there's only 3 ways, there are only 3 options. Sell it to a dealer. They don't like that, ICO. Sell it yourself. They've either tried it and hate it or are afraid of it, or put it on consignment. Where else are they going to go? You've already got both. You got 2 out of the 3 levers in your hand now. If you're dual path.
Seems to me it's going to sell, but bottom line is if it doesn't sell, there's no charge.
That's right. So one of the things you and I talked about, and if it doesn't sell, so that's the other thing. And I can share with you this, at least with my dealership. I have a 95% sale through rate. The cars will sell because what you're doing is during that contract signing moment when you're engaged with them and they've already chosen consignment, you're also kind of telling them about what your process is. And again, you're going to do for them what you would do for your own cars. You say,
sure,
if it's been here 30 days and we look at the VDPs and see there's not a lot of activity, it's coming down, or you can take it home. So you're not trapped. You're not trapped, and you're not wasting your time. You just manage it the same way you would manage it if it was your own car, but you don't have any capital put out there. That's the beauty of it. That's the absolute.
And the consumer will never. They don't have the type of resources that we do. We know what's sold down to trim level, how many days market supply is out there,
right,
and everything it competes with. So it's not really that difficult. It's the people that don't monitor the market that are the ones that struggle.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's not rocket science and it's not voodoo science. It's basic math.
Yeah. Well, in terms of math, I don't know how much time we have, but I was going to ask if you wanted me to throw the math up there. I have a screenshot that I can kind of share with the group or with the audience.
There's a present button on the bottom that you can access. I think it's share screen or something like that. So if it's up on a particular tab that it's on, once you share that, then I just have to pull it onto the page.
Yeah, it's just a one image that we can share with the group.
I don't see it yet, so you have to app or something.
I did it. Let me see. Choose what you want to share.
Right. If you could choose a tab or a window.
Hang on, let me try again.
Slide is open.
Now, if we can't get it to work, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I had a pretty cool image I could, let's see. Screen sharing is easy. Screen share, and then it's asking me entire screen.
Entire screen or a particular tab?
Oh, I can do a Chrome tab. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, if it's in a Chrome tab, then share the Chrome tab that it's in. And then once you click share, then I just have to pull it up on the screen here.
How about now?
Nothing yet.
Okay, man, I don't want to mess with it too much. That's a shame because it really does. I think it really brings home what we're talking about. Window entire. I'm choosing. Let's try one more time. I'm choosing entire screen.
Yeah.
But it doesn't say. It just says cancel or share, and the share button is not lit up. Basically.
You know what? You could always add it as one of the comments then.
Okay.
In the thread after the show.
Yeah. Basically what it is it's just a nice side by side that we created. Our dealers, some of our dealers use our template, and it basically it almost like if you ever got an offer from Carvana, it gives you a picture of the car, but it doesn't say here's your instant cash offer. It says here's the instant cash offer. Here's what we really conservatively believe we can put in your pocket within the next 15 to 45 days, and choose one. And that brings it home to the sellers, because again, where else are they going to go? So that's kind of the experience. And that's what the sellers and the dealers are all kind of doing. I mean, they all do it a little bit different style, but when the ones that were already doing it, when they come to our platform, we get to know them, like how are they doing it? And then when we have a kind of a newbie out there that starts up with us, we train them around what we've kind of always felt were best practices out there.
So what's included in the Consignment Pro kit, and how does it help new dealers?
Yeah, so for new dealers especially, like the existing dealers we just signed up. We just had a dealer that's down in Tampa sign up yesterday, and I went to their website, and they've been in business since 2005, and they've already been doing consignment. They don't need our help as much, but we'll still reach out to them and see how we can help them. But the new ones, we have kind of we're turning it into a knowledge base on our website, our dealer portal. We have a separate dealer portal. I'd like to share that at the show. But we have a dealer portal that has PDF resources. Some of those are like the sample agreement. There's about a 4 or 5 page starter kit, we call it. That's the Consignment Pro. We've got the different tools. Like we have a consignment calculator that you put the vehicle information in, the customer's information, the deal itself, and it generates that side by side that I was talking about. So they have a nice standardized template that they can show the math.
Real time.
What's that?
So that's in real time. Once they put the information in, boom, that populates.
Yeah, the dealers. So I separated the websites out. Retail My Ride is where the dealers register, and that's where their profile exists, and that's where they get the push notifications, and that's where the sellers come in and give us their information to create leads. But I created a resource content website for dealers. It's actually under 2 different names. One of them is getfreeinventory.com. That's if you're already a consignment dealer, for the most part, that name will appeal to you better. But we also have one called, it's the same website, but it's a different domain. It's acquiremorecars.com.
So you can add after the show. Please add those as a comment in the thread, and then and what each one does, so the people know how to access that.
I would really, really encourage dealers or anyone that watches this show to go to acquiremorecars.com. That's where you're going to see videos, FAQs, knowledge resources, the 3 interactive tools, just a whole bunch of stuff that we put out there, best practices. And we're still working on our 50 state requirements. I think you and I talked about that. That's some time, but we're literally methodically going state by state, contacting some of the key people in those states about consignment requirements legally. We always have a disclaimer. What's that?
I was going to ask you that because the state consignment rules library keeps dealers compliant.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you, how do dealers navigate consignment laws across different states?
Well, they can use our 50 state index as a starting point, and we've got a separate page for each state, and it has so it has links to the state content. But we also have a disclaimer that says, look, we're doing this for informational purposes, and we're going to keep it as current as possible. We're using some AI tools and things like that to help us keep it current. But we're saying don't rely 100% on us, but it gets you a starting point as to, and most states, there's only 3 states, and I actually can't remember who they are. I think it's Delaware, and there's 2 others. There's only 3 states that absolutely prohibit it, but each state addresses it a little bit differently. New York's different than Texas, but we've got about 20 of them completed. So if you go to retail, but that's on 2 sites. That's on retailmyride.com under the dealer tab, or it's on the acquiremorecars.com. There's a state requirements tab there with all 50 states. So
there are links within your platform to take them to all of the regulatory agencies within the states. Exactly. So they have the ultimate access to all the information.
Yeah, what we put in our database or knowledge base on the 50 state requirements is we put links to give you the official law, but we also include, best practices from America's #1 consignment hub too. Because that's one of the benefits. We get to see all the states. But we're actually represented in 38 states. We used to have 50 when we were a subscription model. We lost some dealers there back to 38 states. So, but yeah, that's a great new tool. We were asked to do that for a long time. And we're finally doing it. And we're almost halfway complete with all 50 states. So if you're here watching this show and you get on there and your state's not there, just reach out to me and we'll get you what you need. For sure.
So, and the bottom line too is that, the dealers are the experts that know the values based on historical and current data.
Absolutely.
To establish the correct pricing. So it really shouldn't be much of an issue as far as selling a car, unless you have a seller that's a little bit gabados. That's Italian for a little thick-headed. They want to set the price that's contrary to what the market bears. So, but if we're using market data, which tracks real sales and real transfers, then it really should not be an issue. And today, where we have right? It seems like the OEMs are jamming cars down dealers' throats. They got to get these cars down the road. Got to get these cars down the road. And at the same time, you have high prices and limited availability on used cars.
Yeah. And
it seems kind of a no-brainer to me. Look, I'm not going to lie. All right. It wasn't something that I embraced right out of the gate. We started communicating. And I take what I hear and I do a little bit of due diligence to get a better understanding of it. But it doesn't seem that difficult to concept. OPM, other people's money, right?
Yes. Well, if you want to use a couple of analogies, Mannheim and Odessa are wholesale consigners. They've been around for 100 years and they make a lot of money. And real estate agents are consignment pros too. It's just the difference is those are stationary. People go to the houses and look at them, right? But the cars,
right?
Yeah. I mean, think about it. The real estate agents don't own your house. It's you own it until they sell it. It's the same principle. And and what we found is the more the expense, like I said earlier, the more expensive the vehicle, the more consignment will play a role. But what we've done is we've said that it's an old concept. We've just said, let's put some standards around it and some process to it. And let's make it applicable or applying to everyday drivers, everyday cars, because it's needed right now. I mean, someone just said, I just read a number the other day with between Carvana and CarMax, they're going to source 2 million private party cars next year. Maybe they've already done it this year. I can't remember. There's still something like 40 million used cars sold a year. Half of those are by dealers, so the other half are private party. So even if they take 2 million, there's still a lot out there. But at the end of the day, here's one of our mantras too, is it's really not about like all these fancy tools and all these different ways to engage customers, to private party sellers. That's great. That's what you need. You need to have outreach and have stuff that you can engage them with. But it's really about what you do when you're engaged with them, what you offer them. If you're just another sheep in the herd offering another ICO by itself, those things only convert between 5 and 10% of the time. In fact, we have some very large strategic partnerships that we've been talking to for a while that we're going to start to implement in 2026, which is coming up, where we found some very creative ways to kind of go after that 90% that say no to instant cash offers. And we're going to bring them to Retail My Ride. And we're going to start to then, and that's why we need more dealers in our network. We need more coverage in the big cities and towns and all that. And we'll get there. So
we're in the 11th hour of the game.
I think we are. Wow.
Inventory. Hey, you need inventory. How do they get a hold of you, Jim?
They can get me a couple ways. I'll give my cell number out if that's helpful, or protocol. My number is 817-805-7332. You can find me on LinkedIn, or you can email me at jim@retailmyride.com. So I'm real easy to get a hold of.
And do me a favor, put in the links after the show goes off here.
Yeah.
And that way dealers will be able to reach out to you. Jim, I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show. I hope it's eye-opening for those that have watched and those that will watch on the replay. And remember, it's just another way of acquiring vehicles and business without having to put your own cash out. Seems like a no-brainer to me, Jim. Thank you very much. Stay on as we off here.
Okay.
So thanks for watching. Next week, I am taking my wife to the opera, so I'm not sure if we're going to be back in time for a show Sunday night, but I will let you know if there is one through a post. So thanks for watching. Have a safe and successful next week, and we'll see you next time on Sunday Night Live.
Thanks, Paul.